I don't know about you, but I've got the Sunday scaries. So I'm drinking my Arabic coffee and I figured I would just kind of talk through it. Hello, I'm Liam, and I figured I would record a video because I've been interested in kind of sharing my thoughts, especially on Sundays, because I feel like this is nearly a universal feeling that pretty much everybody shares together in this world and possibly beyond, is that every Sunday it just there's just this lingering feeling of dread just pulsating in my heart. And it's I find that a lot of the times on Sundays I feel very, very unproductive, and it leads me down these rabbit holes where I don't do anything productive with the day, and I end up feeling like, one half of my weekend, at least one half, was wasted. So I'm trying to work out the habits to prevent that from happening. Um, and obviously, it's just kind of a very natural feeling, so it's difficult to kind of fight. But I figured maybe sitting down here in my little office space slash studio apartment. This is literally half of my apartment room, but I call it my office space to make it sound more professional. Um, but in my little studio apartment here, and just kind of talk some of my feelings through, because I find that would be a useful part of my day, and maybe it could become a regular thing where I just sit down and talk things out, and hopefully that provides someone out there some level of benefit. So yeah, I've got the Sunday scaries. And if you have the Sunday scaries as well, welcome. There's plenty of space here in this online realm where all of us weirdos come together and share the weirdest stuff about our personal lives, and we think it's okay because we're anonymous behind the screen, right? Yeah, so I wanted to sit down here. I jotted down a couple of notes of just things that I'm thinking. It would be nice to kind of talk some of this out. The first thing that's kind of been dwelling on my mind is adulting. It really gets to me, and I'm so early. I'm so early on in my adult life, right? I'm 25, about halfway through being 25, so halfway to 26, which is a really scary thought. But I'm sure I'm gonna feel that way when I'm 26, going into 27, then 27 going to 28. So it's only going to accumulate, right? So another part of me, one part of me is scared, and then the other part of me is like, hey, it could be a lot worse. So I'm trying to be appreciative of the time that I still have on this planet. It's still difficult. I guess technically 3 years in, right? Because I graduated college when I was 21, and then I have started my official first job out of college, uh, right when I was at the end of being 21, turning 22. So it's been a bit over 3 years now since I've officially been an adult. You can argue that a college kid is an adult, technically speaking, if you think anyone above the 18 is an adult, but they call them college kids for a reason. Like, they're still kids, you're still young. You're not fully mature at all during those years, so I wouldn't consider it. Um, but I feel like 22 is a pretty fair number because that's the age that a lot of people kind of become their own person for the first time, right? You don't have these structured, very well organized environments that are kind of built to guide you through the world, right? When you're first growing up, obviously you're living with your parents, and that goes throughout school as well. For me, I was in public school, so very, structured, very like, okay, you go to school, you do your homework, you do your schoolwork, and then you go home and you do your homework, and then you have like maybe 1 or 2 hours of free time just to be a kid, which is always necessary, and then the next day you kind of just repeat it, and it's safe and it's comfortable. And I don't mean to say it's easy. There's a lot of struggles growing up, but becoming a mature human being and experiencing life events for the first time growing up. It's not easy being a kid, but I'm just saying, in hindsight, it felt a lot easier. Um, and so you go from that into junior high, high school, similar structures, and then you're off to college. And college again, well, if you do go the route of college, I should say, not everybody does, and that's totally cool. That's kind of when a lot of the guardrails let loose. But in college, I still feel like it's still very structured and still you're in this institution where you're with a bunch of other people who are there for very similar reasons, and so it's very easy to meet people, and there's clubs and activities and organizations that actively encourage you to go out and meet people. And so even in college, still very structured, still very, you feel like there's this invisible hand that's still kind of guiding you through those several years. But then when you graduate college, right, that's when you're really just thrown into the deep end, right? For a lot of people, I'm not saying for everybody, but for a lot of people, and in my experience, that's really what it felt like. And it was difficult, especially in the early couple of years, like 22, 23, going into 24. It's been a rough ride so far, I'm not gonna lie. This is already the second city that I'm living in as a full-grown adult. The first place did not work out so well. A lot of that's on me, and a lot of that I account to just struggling. And so I did have a really, really difficult time straight out of college into my first job. But I feel like in this new city that I'm in a better place. I feel like ever since I turned 25 last May, my perspective has really shifted. And it's funny, what I've been hearing for so long is that, like, when you turn 25, that's when your frontal lobe fully develops, and that's when you fully become, you know, a fully grown adult, right? That's when you fully become your own. And it's so crazy how much truth there is in that statement. Like, I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was just one of those weird scientific, maybe conspiracies or pseudoscience or whatever, where it's like people say that, but I didn't know how much truth there was to that, right? I kind of lumped it in with some of those other things that you would hear people talk about from time to time, like how you're technically you outgrow all of your cells in your body every 7 years. So technically speaking, like every 7 years, all of your cells from the past 7 years have died and have kind of regrown. And so if you think about it from like a philosophical standpoint, it's like, well, does that mean I'm a whole nother human being than I was 7 years ago? So it's one of those like weird, like kind of pseudoscience kind of things that I lumped that into, but there's really a lot of truth to it, at least in my experience. And from some of my friends who I've been talking with, a lot of them are older than me, so they've gone through this before, and they relatively tend to agree with me. So it's really interesting how you turn 25 and it's kind of just like something clicks, right? Like a light switch just comes on, right? Where just so many things that you struggle with, a lot of the struggles that you go through 20 through 24, right? A lot of this kind of learning, testing out the waters with different things. Like, I know I was in and out of so many different hobbies. Like, I loved language growing up, and I loved learning languages and studying languages, particularly Mandarin. And so I've always been kind of in and out of that ever since I left college. But then I wanted to dabble in other things as well, like writing, and I've tried drawing, even though I've never been a great artist at all. And then I've tried DJing. I've tried, like all kinds of like these different music softwares. I've tried Vocaloid. I thought for like at least a year, I was like, music is gonna be my thing. Like, I've never touched an instrument before. Like, I have no musical experience whatsoever. But for some reason, like, my stupid 22-year-old brain just thought it would be a good idea to just go full into music for no reason other than, like, I just thought it sounded cool, and I had the full freedom of an adult for the first time. That was a trip, and it didn't end up turning well, not at all. But I don't regret uh going through that. I don't regret taking that taking that jump into something that was unknown to me because it just seemed interesting. In fact, like when I think about it in hindsight, I'm like, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Like, is that not what we're supposed to do? Once we have the freedoms of being an adult for the first time, like that's what you should be doing, right? You should be experimenting with yourself, especially when you're on the younger side of your adult life, like I am, right? You should be experimenting with other things that just interest you or that could spark creativity in you. And so it did spark creativity in me, but I feel like while I do appreciate that experience, I feel like I might have gone a little bit overboard, both in like spending way too much money on a stupid DJ controller that I ultimately like did not take full advantage of, right? So quite a few monetary habits that were not so great that I'm still recovering from to this day. Like it put me in a bad mindset, right? Where I felt like I felt like I had to succeed because I'm not that into my job right now, and I've been struggling with my career aspirations for a little while, so I was like, I'm gonna go fully into this creative thing that I've had no experience in whatsoever, and I'm gonna succeed, right? And so obviously when I didn't succeed, it put me in a bad mindset, right? Because I felt like I had to succeed in this thing that I was clearly just not meant for, right? So so that's a perspective that I've kind of gained, especially like I've been building towards this perspective for like about a year now. But I would say like when I turned 25, that's when it really just clicked in my mind where I was like, that phase in my life, like that was just not working. Like I feel like if I had my 25-year-old brain at the time that I was 22 and just getting into this, I would have immediately picked up on like this is kind of a stupid idea and I shouldn't be doing this, right? But I did it anyways, because I was on the younger side of being an adult, and I thought I would experiment, and so I did. And like I said before, like I'm careful not to stray away from that mindset fully, right? There's got to be a good balance, right? Because experimenting with your life, that's it's so critical, it's so important. It's what we're on this earth to do. It's to explore, it's to create, it's to build, it's to do all of these wonderful things, and we're so many of us are fortunate enough to be in the position where we're able to at least dabble in a couple of those things, right? So um it's finding the balance, right? It's finding the balance of making sure you're doing it in a productive and positive way, and that you're not shooting yourself in the foot by making stupid choices, but also, let yourself struggle a little bit, right? And so I've been getting into writing, and I've been getting into particularly both novel writing and poetry. And anytime that I find myself, stressed or thinking about what if this doesn't work, what if none of this works out, what if I suck, I've learned to kind of take a step back and think, well, what does that matter? What do any of those questions really matter? Because at the end of the day, I'm doing this for me, and I shouldn't have any expectations of success going in, because when you have those high expectations, it's ultimately gonna lead to a worse output that you put out there in your writing, and or whatever creative project you decide to pursue, right? So you just can't go into whatever hobby or whatever project with that mindset. It's got to be tailored towards you. I think I've kind of learned that especially the past couple months. I would say it's been kind of slowly building up over the past year. It's where like I'm more able to take a step outside of myself and really look at myself from like an external point of view and say what you're doing, or what you're, more particularly what you're feeling stressed about. Like is it worth it? Is it worth it for you, or do you need to just let it go? And so that's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And so a lot of the progress that I've made this year so far has just been kind of mending the gaps, like plugging in the holes of this sinking ship. And I don't feel like I'm sinking anymore. And I feel like that's like the perfect way to summarize what this year has been for me so far, is that I felt like I was on a sinking ship, and that's why I fled the city that I used to live in, and I wanted to restart fully, like just completely just hit the restart button on my life. And so I feel like now in October 2025, at 25 years old, I feel like I've plugged most of those holes where my ship was sinking, and I feel like I'm starting to get back afloat. And so that's really good. That's really good, and I feel really proud of myself, and I feel very proud even just saying that. I've been talking about this for a lot longer than I expected to. This is what exactly what I was hoping for, right? With something like this, is to just like sit down having only a really basic 1 to 2 bullet point outline of what I would talk about and then just ramble for like 25 minutes. So I don't know if I'm going to edit this, but hopefully my rambling has made any sort of sense to you if you're still sticking around on this video. So thank you. So I think I want to conclude these Sunday Scaries podcast videos with the topic of rose, thorns, and buds. This is something that I did with my college group. A rose is, something that's really positive about your week. A thorn is something that's kind of been a thorn at your side that's really been bugging you. And then a bud is like something that's blooming, right? Something that has a lot of potential and a big growth area for yourself, right? So my rose for this week, I feel like was definitely I had a really busy week, but busy in both the positive, which I'll talk about now, and the negative, which might pop up in my thorn part. But it was busy nonetheless, and I got to reconnect with a lot of old friends. Well, when I say old friends, I really mean like new friends, but like friends that I met here in the city ever since I've been living here since February. I made it a goal of mine when I moved here back in February to meet people and to go out and to really be social in a way that I've not been social before. My ISFP self is like thriving right now because I get to live alone in my studio apartment, but I also have the friend base now that like I have a group of people that I can talk to whenever I want to or need to. So this week, I got to reconnect with a lot of those people. I went to like a music concert, Joey Valence Spray. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh, it's like this pop punk duo boy band. I had never heard of them before, but one of my friends, she's really into them, and so we just had a blast dancing at the concert. And their music is so fun. It's definitely like Beastie Boys vibes. So that would be one recommendation from this. If you're listening and you're looking for a recommendation from me, it would be go on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever platform you use and go search them up because they just sing a lot of really fun kind of nostalgic Y2K-esque music, and it's great. It's definitely worth a listen. Um, but I got to reconnect with my friend. We were out, exploring the town, and then we went to the music concert and just danced our hearts out, and that was a lot of fun. And then I also just the other day I saw the new Chainsaw Man movie with my friends. So Chainsaw Man, it's an anime that I really really love. I've been reading the manga since it came out, like back in the early 2020s. And I watched season one when it came out a couple of years ago, and I loved it. The plot is very crass, and there's there's a lot of interesting character motivations, I should say. But it's a lot deeper than what it appears to be on the surface, and that's what I really love about it. The movie continues where season one left off, and it was beautiful. Just chef's kiss. It was so good. Oh my God, it almost made me cry. It was just so beautifully animated. The art was just incredible. The pacing was it was very quick, and it was just brilliantly written, brilliantly paced. The voice acting was phenomenal. The art was just incredible, absolutely incredible. And I saw it with my friends, and we just gushed about it afterwards. So that's always fun. I'm a big geek, and I love to gush out about these kinds of things with my friends. And so whenever I get the chance to do that with them, I'm very, very grateful. And I'm actually going to see the movie again tonight because I need to rewatch it, man. I'm seeing it in IMAX tonight. So that's another, maybe that's a bud. Maybe that's a bud for tonight. An opportunity to do something fun. Um, And then Thorn, right? So these are things that's been kind of eating at me for the past week. So this one might come up a lot in the next several podcast episodes, but work, I'm really struggling right now with a lot of work related things that I'm not gonna, it's all personal, so I'm not gonna get into it here, at least not for now. But my work has just been, it's been tough. It's been tough. It's been taking a lot of energy out of me. And I would say a lot of that energy is negative energy, which you never want. You never want to go to bed at night having spent 90% of your energy on something negative, right? So it's been taking up a lot of mental stress, and it's been leaving me kind of exhausted at the end of the day. So it's a thorn, and I'm trying to find ways to overcome it. But so far, no luck. But and that's kind of resulted in my sleep schedule being off a little bit. I got into such a good sleep schedule like a month ago, because I was like so determined. So I got into one of these mindsets where I was like, yes, I'm going to fix my sleep schedule, and I'm gonna go to bed at 8 p.m. and I'm gonna wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm gonna like go to the gym before work, and then like do some like creative project before work, so that like I can start my day off at a positive. And then if you start your day off at like a net positive, then like whatever amount work drains from that number, hopefully the hope here is that by the end of the day you'll still be at a net positive because you started the day off with so much, right? So I had such a good sleep schedule going, and then just things got in the way, right? Things always seem to get in the way when, especially with my sleep schedule, like every time I'm like trying to commit to this, just something pops up where it's like, well, there goes my sleep, right? So that's life. I'm trying to figure that out as well. Um, and then a bud. A bud for me, I think for this week, it's probably this, like what I'm doing right now. Like this is something I've been thinking about for a while, at least a couple weeks now. Is like I feel like crap on Sundays, so like why not just sit down and talk about it? I'm finally doing it, and so I feel like this is definitely a bud that can really blossom into something great. Yeah, I'm feeling very hopeful and very creatively inspired right now. That's I guess that's kind of like another rose or a bud. And there's another thing that I want to do at the very end of my podcast, right? So we went through the rose, thorn, and bud. Now I want to cover like just one piece of art that I consumed this week because that's so important to me. And I feel like on the weeks where I feel like I didn't do anything productive, it always boils down to that week I just didn't take the time to fully immerse myself in a piece of art. For me, I get so inspired by things that I consume, right? So whether it be a TV show, a movie, an anime, a video game, a book, a poem, a painting, like just anything, like the smallest thing can just draw so much inspiration from me and just make me feel so uplifted and motivated. And so I feel like the weeks where I feel the worst are the weeks where I did not put any mental energy into consuming art. So for this week, my art of the week has to go to Chainsaw Man. I know I just talked about it. I did rewatch season one, so it's only 12 episodes, so it wasn't even that long. I rewatched season one, and I loved it even more this time around than I did the last time. And that really got me into the the hyped mindset to watch the movie. And then I came out of the movie just fully just filled with just so much love. Like just so much just pure bliss. I loved the movie so much, and I'm going to rewatch it tonight. I'm so excited. I might even go back and rewatch season one, like the crazy person that I am. Like I don't know, just certain pieces of art just get me so excited. And so this week it has to be Chainsaw Man. Like that's the piece of art this week that's just been on my mind 24/7. It's been what's been keeping me up, through my work days. Like it's been what's keeping me going. So I would have to give it to Chainsaw Man. But let me know in the comments, if if you've managed to stick around. Um, Thank you, first of all, and second of all, just leave a comment. Like, what is, first of all, if you want to share what's a rose, thorn, and a bud that you experienced this week, and then what is a piece of art that you consumed this week that feel like really moved you. So again, I'm Liam, and I'm really glad that I decided to sit down and record this. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.